And I'm going to start off with one that I don't really want to share, but I'm kind of having to backtrack a recommendation that I've made to you guys, and it is on IDW comic books Transformers series. Now I've talked up the series. Sorry, moving the microphone for a second. I've talked up this series a couple of times in videos because at the point where I left off on it, it was one of the smartest, well-written, laugh out loud funny books that I was reading, and I was very excited. I mean, it was just being done so well. I mean, it wasn't perfect. I mean, sometimes the dialogue was kind of static where everybody talked the same, but the writing was so witty and so well done that that was easily forgivable, at least to me. And IDW had a pretty steady sales record on it. And, I mean, it was selling. The attrition on the book was very, very low. And that's so unusual, especially nowadays. They were getting up to the issues 20 and 30 and 40, and it was holding steady with slight attrition. But it was right around the 10,000 copy mark. It was just plugging along, doing just fine. Well, when I started talking about it the other day, a few weeks back, I say the other day, and especially in regard to the latest Transformers film bombing. I mean, bombing hard. I looked at Comicron. That's the website that I recommend to you guys to look for if you want to check the sales numbers each month on your own. Comicron.com aggregates the numbers from Diamond distributors. If we had more than one distributor, it might be harder for them to aggregate the numbers, but we don't. We ought to, but we don't. But I'm not going to go there. And I looked at the numbers the past few months for the Transformers series, and they're barely trudging 6,000 copies out. And I was like, man, what? They've lost 50%? What happened? So then I see this. And I realize why they've been losing all their readers. So, but before I get into this, I found an article that was 2 years previous to this that I completely missed. And I want to go to this one first before I jump to this one because it kind of follows a line of thought. And it's a disturbing line of thought, and I'm going to have to read this off my phone because for some reason I can't bring it up on the computer. Who knows? Maybe my computer is just rebelling against the nonsense, like lots of us. So yes, we have gay and transgender Transformers. Because why not, right? It makes perfect sense. So this first article is from The Guardian. And I warn you now, the article I'm going to be reading through, this writer, is just lavishly just speaking praise over this decision, just loving every second of it, just breathless over this choice. And the title, if you want to look this up, and I should have a link in the description box below, but God help me, this is going to be one that I'm going to have to really trudge through this one. Kiss Me, Chrome Dome, How the Transformers Found Peace and Same-Sex Partnerships. Oh. A spin-off comic has shape-shifted the smash-em-up Transformers robots into a world of same-sex partnerships and a leader modeled on Tony Benn. Okay, okay, we're just going to trudge through this one, okay? Michael Bay was in Oxfordshire recently to shoot The Last Night, the final installment of the mighty Transformers franchise. Well, that already is wrong. It's the final installment he's doing. But of course, given the box office numbers, maybe they were being accidentally prophetic while misspelling installment. The maker of the highest grossing movie of 2014, Transformers Age of Extinction, which took over $1 billion, was up to his old trick stomping on British sensibilities by converting beautiful Ballenheim Palace into a Nazi headquarters. See, this writer just... Stomping on British sensibilities by addressing something that happened in history. The SJW movement is so thin-skinned, they can't even address history without getting prickly. But I digress, moving on. This may take me a minute to get through, but we're going to just hang here with me. But in another wing of the franchise, I promise I'm going to suck it up and just get through this. The shape-changing robots have been venturing into much less likely territory, exploring such weighty issues as social mobility, personal identity, and various corrosive ideologies, while also establishing the world of Transformers as a homonormative society. Fans of Chrome Dome and Rewind may be touched to learn that the two are now in a romantic relationship. Now, bear in mind, this article was written on December 2nd, 2016. The sales have been plummeting. And they say, oh, it's just going so great. Just wait. Launched in 2012, the comic book series Transformers More Than Meets the Eye tells the story of a group of robots journeying across the universe on a quest to find the mythical Knights of Cybertron, who may or may not all be gay. The original children of Primus and the other four gods of the... I added that in. Of the Guiding Hand, in case you didn't know. The series is written by... Guernsey-based, I'm just going to call it Guernsey, James Roberts, whose background is in the civil service. But, such is the churn of the comics industry, the title was wound down in September at issue 57, the plan being to relaunch it this month as Transformers Lost Light. Yeah, I'd say the light has been lost. Again, that was me. Sorry, I hope you guys can distinguish when I'm throwing in little snippets of sarcasm. The hope is to create a jumping-on point for new readers, though Robert's radical take on the 30-year-old toy brand will continue apace. I always wanted to give the franchise as much depth and weight as possible. I'm pretty sure this isn't what he sounds like, but it's just what I'm going with. One of the easiest way to do that, is to politicize it. Let me read that again in my normal voice. I always wanted to give the franchise as much depth and weight as possible. One of the easiest ways to do that is to politicize it. Sorry, I'm just gonna beat my head into the desk for a second, okay? Do you guys see how this is already going badly? That this writer thinks you should politicize a comic book based on toys. Now, I'll get to the good parts and the bad parts of this in a second, but I'm going to go on. As a fan of the clunky robots since childhood, and that seems to actually be true, Roberts has always had a sense of entitlement when it comes to messing with their core concept, specifically the act of transformation. In More Than Meets the Eye, I explored the idea that millions of years ago, the Transformers existed in a system with a functionalist doctrine, meaning the thing you turn into determines your status. The more commonplace the device you became, the fewer privilege you had. And I will confess that about the time he started introducing that, my red flag started going up. And I've lost the article to a pop-up ad. Pop-up ads are the bane of mobile internet use, its existence. If you run a website, please don't do the full page pop-up ad for mobile devices. It's just, God, it sucks so bad. So going on. In a move that would doubtless intrigue Bay, Roberts brought in the concept of municipal eugenics. A type of transformer could literally be made redundant because there's no longer a use for its newly shifted shape. Maybe, says Roberts, there's an analogy here in terms of how disabled people are treated in some quarters by government. If they're not producing, they're not making the necessary contributions to society, and so they're devalued. Okay. Make a note of what he just talked about. That's basically what the Nazis did. Socialist Party, Nazis. Roberts has even dared to rehabilitate the classic Transformers boogeyman Megatron, going back to his early days and depicting him as a young radical. Originally, Megatron was an incredible thinker who advocated non-violent resistance. While he beat people to death in an arena, that's fine. He was in the Tony Benn mold, an international socialist. You see how the SJW here is already conflicted with himself? He campaigned for emancipation and equality, but eventually concluded the system had been engineered to withstand any form of dissent other than force. As is the case with grand tragedies, he traveled away from the goals he had in the beginning and walked the well-trodden path from communism to totalitarianism. Let me tell you there's something, John. With communism, there is no other way to get to power. It always leads to totalitarianism. And the socialists are responsible for the people not pouring into society, not pulling their weight, and they disappear and they vanish. That's the whole structure of the political system, is everybody has to put in their fair share. Anyway, digressing. Moving on. But Megatron's journey didn't stop there. Recent issues saw him teaming up with the Autobots, against whom he had waged a 4 million-year war. He's been tested, says Roberts, of the one-time leader of the villainous Decepticons, able to change into 3 different types of gun. And now he's renounced violence. So you see here, while that was intriguing, and I kind of was following along to see what they were going to do, and I backed off just as they were getting to this point, I never got into this any further, so I don't know how it turned out. To me, this sounds like the moral relativism. Good guys are bad, bad guys are good. It all depends on your perspective, your point of view. Some may doubt the Transformers concept can bear such weight, but Roberts believes the line's longevity and the success of the Bay movies have encouraged Hasbro to give him his head. You know, here in America, we use different terminology. It's a mature franchise, and it's doing very well in various iterations. That's true. So Transformers can encompass different types of stories in the same way a property like Batman does. Okay. Just keep telling yourself that, John. Surprisingly, perhaps, one strand of the story has met no resistance. This is the writer here. No resistance. The portrayal of same-sex relationships as the norm for this robot society. When they were created, Transformers were exclusively male. They used the male pronoun, and in the 1980s cartoon series, they had male voices. I wanted to tell romantic stories. If 2 characters were in a relationship, the probability was that they were going to be men. Step forward, Chrome Dome and Rewind, both from the original toy line. They were close, says Roberts. You could have read it as them being best friends, which I did at the time. Had there been any pushback, that's how it would have stayed. But about a year into the series, I became more overt, depicting them as essentially husbands, giving them a storyline where the emotional high point was one saying to the other, I love you. Yes, because men, brotherhood, they never say I love you to each other. That just doesn't happen. You know, Frodo and Samwise, that wasn't a brotherhood. Excuse me, I'm getting a little choked up on this. Let me grab a sip of coffee. Wait there. Okay, that's better. Sorry. I'm going to leave that in. I'm not even going to cut that out. It wasn't a big deal to them or those around them. There's never been any scene, nor will they be, where other Transformers remark upon them being together. Because the reason why is SJWs have to write this as normal. They always have to write it as there's never a problem with it. Nonetheless, says Roberts, it felt like a big deal to me. So much so that he drafted a letter to Hasbro justifying its inclusion. But there was no opposition, despite the current polarization in comics between a loud conservative sector of the readership and the so-called social justice warriors promoting a more liberal ideology. In October, Marvel writer Chelsea Kane quit Twitter following harassment about her decision to depict S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Mockingbird in a t-shirt bearing the slogan, "Ask me about my feminist agenda." The fuss left Roberts staggered. People say there's no place for politics in comics, but comics have been political from the start. If you don't think X-Men has been telling a story about marginalization and ostracization for the past 50 years, you've been reading a different title to me. His work seems to be going a lot further than t-shirt slogans. Does he ever worry it will catch fire in a similar way? I do, but anything that sparks a bigger conversation about progressive politics is good. I will agree with that one comment, that people talking about it and exposing it is good. And the reason why SJWs just don't seem to get it is morals and issues of the human heart and good versus evil aren't frickin' political issues. The reason why they do this, as a general rule, is they worship government. They worship government. Everything has to come from government. They turn to government for everything to solve every problem. There is no God in the equation. They are all, and that's why they moralize. Everything is political. Everything. Progressive politics is good. Congratulations, IDW. You have infected the Transformers line with SJW politics. Now, you think that's where it ends? No. Let's get to the current news. July 27th, 2017. This coming courtesy of bleedingcool.com. Holy God, we're 15 minutes in. All right. Transformers Lost Light number 8 features trans women Transformers. I am not kidding. So this article states, it wasn't that long ago that all Transformers were, de facto, were referred to as male. God, these guys really need to proofread their articles. Hasbro decided that they were boys' toys. It's because they were boys' toys. God. And so there was no room for female robots. But boys eventually grew up, some of them, in later iterations that changed. And female Transformers... Jeez, I'm all stammering now. And female Transformers characters emerged. They were initially seen as aberrations, but eventually gained a presence, albeit a minority one, within the Transformers universe of comics, toys, cartoons, and movies. They were slightly more than Smurfettes. And of late, we have has trans. Bleeding cool, come on. We have had trans and non-binary Transformers as well. Transformers Lost Light by James Roberts and Jack Lawrence has been a pioneer in the way Transformers have portrayed themselves regarding gender and romantic interest. Hence this week's issue with art by Priscilla Tramontano and Joanna Lafuente, featuring Transformers Anode and Lug, talking about their expressed designations. In previous issues, they had been presented as a male or gender-neutral couple. Oh, and then they go through this conversation where they explain why, hey, this person is not a he anymore, they're a she, and blah-de-blah, 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 blah-de-blah. I'll put the link to this article in the description box as well if you want to see the panels, if you want to read this for yourself. You probably should read this for yourself. And then Bleeding Cool goes on to gushingly say, it's what happens when you step out into the big wide world and the possibilities available to you expand exponentially. And then, so they go through the whole conversation, and it's like, oh, it's normal, it's fine. And, yeah, so we now have Transformers who are gay and Transformers who are changing their sexual designations. They are robots. They are robots who are forged. You have written this in your own series. They are not created the same way we are. They do not procreate the same way we do. They are not sexual beings. You are, apparently too much, because you are inserting sexual identity into robots aimed at children. Now, I am a grown man, and I enjoy reading the Transformers. It's because when I was a kid, I liked it, and I'm the same person. I like it, I like it, I like it. And I am just enormously disappointed with IDW. I'm enormously disappointed with this decision that they've done. And they stick their head so far up their behind that they lick their esophagus in thinking it's fine. The sales numbers aren't reflective of people rejecting this idea. No, it's fine. Let's just keep doubling down and tripling down. That will help increase sales. Congratulations, IDW. You are doing it the Marvel way. I need to move on to something else. I cannot believe I'm already about, 20 minutes in now? I'll tell you what, guys. Just post your comments down below what you think of this. I'm not. They're Transformers, guys. They're goddamn Transformers. Okay, so got that out of the way. I'm sorry for suggesting the book. Like I said, if that is your thing, if that is what you're looking for, then clearly you will respond to this news in an opposite manner that I did. Great, now you know. Go buy the book, enjoy the book. It is everything you want it to be. I, myself personally, will not. What do we got next? What are we going to get into next? You know what? Let's do this, because this is a follow-up of the video I just put out about DC taking the crown from Marvel, potentially.